Innovation. Innovation on its own is an innovation. Mankind tries to better itself throughout the ages through using different technologies or different ideologies. Ideas like religion, currency, and government all changed throughout time. There was a time when none of these existed. But as technology and ideologies shift, so too will ideas of how we live our normal lives. One great example of this is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an online, unregulated currency. It has no static value, but because of its enigmatic properties, it can be used for several nefarious purposes, whether it be enlisting prostitutes, buying narcotics, or purchasing illegal firearms. Bitcoin has eluded several governments and broken several laws, yet continues to exist. In many ways, it has become the currency of the internet. Could this idea not be repurposed and put into normal everyday life? Why do people in a technological age have to use antiquated ideals of currency? This intangible currency is just as legitimate as any other currency. Taken from a completely realist standpoint, paper money and even coins are just little trinkets we assign value to, that we all agree is worth something. Why can't we do the same with an online currency? But you might be thinking to yourself, now how does this affect me? I'm an average guy. I don't care about Bitcoin. Now how could a few people who take this thing really seriously change the way mankind works? Well, that's just one small step. Religion has been an ever-changing facet of mankind. From ancestor worship to idol worship, to full institutions being brought up, religion is a big part of human life. Yet there is no denying that it has always been changing. Even now, what we'd consider to be radical religious thoughts would just be liberal thoughts in the eyes of what we believed in the past. Look at the power that the Catholic Church is giving up. Pope Benedict, an incredibly powerful man, voluntarily stepped down from his post as Pope. This is unheard of. The Pope stepping down as a result of all the child abuse scandals is just one example of how people changed their thoughts on modern religion. Also take a look at Ireland. Ireland was at one point the most Catholic country in the world, if you exclude Northern Ireland. After the whole child abuse scandal, the majority of Irish people stopped going to church on Sunday. In fact, in 2012, Ireland only graduated one priest. Even Mexico, which is now considered the most Catholic country in the world, is slowly changing away from that. And many Mexicans are now saying that they're atheist or agnostic or a very moderate form of Protestant. But you still might be saying, hey, that doesn't really affect me. I'm not a religious person. I don't care about religion. How can you convince me that the world is actually changing? Okay, let's look at government. Let's look at the Arab Spring, one of the biggest movements for democracy since the fall of the Berlin Wall. If you're still looking at the question, how does this affect me? Look at government. There is no greater human accomplishment than governance. A move away from animalistic urges, and instead on the idea of a society, bettering a community instead of an individual. But, as both Eastern Europe and North Africa have shown, putting in place flimsy democracies don't help anyone. As Fareed Zakaria mentions in his Time article, constitutions are more important than democracies. Having a set order and rights for people is much more important than their right to vote. Yes, I know it's a terrible thing to say, but without a constitution, a democracy is not possible. The word of the people needs to be used to show the people's voice. The Constitution is the word of the people, and without that voice, how can they expect to express themselves on the national scale? And many people agree. Does the country really need a democracy to function? Of course, it's great, but as recent approval ratings have shown, people don't trust Congress, they don't trust the Senate. Many people don't like the job President Obama has been doing. Is it not, in fact, time to move away from older thoughts and move on to more practical ones? Is it not time to abandon ideological sets of government and instead move into something more practical? So that's my spiel. That's what I want to say. If we as a people, if we as a species aren't ready to move on from what we are comfortable with into something more progressive, how are we going to survive the changing world around us? People change, and so will the way we live. I'm glad to have had your time, and hope my words can open up your horizons, I guess.